A nursery camera froze on a single frame. A nightlight glare on a plastic mobile, the crib rails casting ruler-straight shadows. The house alarm's log showed a bedroom door opening during a window when the monitor recorded no motion at all. How did a child leave a secure crib without a drop sound or fabric rustle in those missing 5 minutes? Columbus, Ohio, at 2:14 a.m. on June 16, 2011, held one fact that did not fit. One latch bent inward. For those who value long-form investigations, a quiet subscription sustains future reporting. Maris Hale. On August 12, 2009, Lexington, Kentucky witnessed a life-term sentencing. Maris Hale, 17, received life imprisonment with parole eligibility after 25 years for the killing of her infant brother. But what drove a sister to move a house like a stage set and leave no clear entry for an intruder? Crime timeline. On March 10, 2008 at 7:20 a.m., paramedics responded to a call reporting an unresponsive child in a second-floor bedroom of a Southside duplex. The boy, 8 months old, was found supine in a crib with a folded blanket tucked tight beneath his shoulders and a pacifier placed on the rail. Initial assumption at scene leaned towards sudden, unexplained infant death. The room showed no forced entry, no open windows, and a digital baby monitor active on the dresser. A neighbor recalled hearing a washing machine start at 6:50 a.m. A time-stamped coffee purchase on a nearby convenience store camera documented Maris leaving at 7:12 a.m., alone, carrying a backpack. The mother, on a night shift, arrived as responders worked. Within 48 hours, the county medical examiner revised the preliminary finding after noting petechiae inconsistent with positional asphyxia and mild trace levels of diphenhydramine in gastric contents. The interval between the last verified feed at 8:15 p.m., the prior night, and discovery formed a long window. Focus narrowed to household members with access. A diaper pail bag, replaced that morning, contained one infant onesie with detergent scent stronger than the family brand. Background snapshot. Maris, 17 at offense, was a junior at a magnet high school, living with her mother and 2 younger brothers after a parental separation. She had a strong record in track, a part-time job at a grocery, and frequent responsibility for morning care. School staff had noted increased absences following the baby's birth. No documented psychiatric history stood out in records. Household stressors included reduced income and compressed living space. Investigation and evidence. Detectives obtained a warrant for digital devices, collecting the baby monitor, a family desktop, and 2 phones. The monitor's memory card stored short, motion-triggered clips. Gaps appeared from 5:30 to 6:10 a.m. Despite temperature logs showing stable, occupancy, a power events readout from a smart plug in an adjacent room revealed a washing machine cycle beginning at 6:46 a.m., aligning with the neighbor's recollection. The family desktop's browser history included searches during the prior week for infant sleep training and for sedating antihistamine's effects in young children. Pharmacy loyalty records tied a late-night purchase of children's cold medicine to Maris's account 2 days earlier. An ultraviolet sweep of the crib rails revealed wiped-down surfaces, except for one underside screw head that preserved a partial latent print matching Maris. Trace analysis of the pacifier identified fabric softener compounds matching the washed onesie in the pail, suggesting staged placement after laundering. Interviews with the grocery employer confirmed Maris left a short shift early on the morning in question due to a family issue, a timeline inconsistency with the convenience store video. The convergence of drug trace, staged scene indicators, and digital footprints narrowed the path to one actor inside the home before 7 a.m. Charges, court, sentence. The county attorney charged Maris as an adult with murder and tampering with physical evidence. The defense argued accidental overlay during a dawn feeding and challenged the pharmacology, noting low diphenhydramine levels. Expert testimony on smothering markers remained careful, avoiding overreach, but the combination of petechiae, absence of classic sudden infant death findings, and staging cues persuaded jurors. On August 12, 2009, the jury returned a guilty verdict on murder and tampering. The court imposed life imprisonment with parole eligibility after 25 years, crediting time served and ordering concurrent time for tampering. A later appeal pressed on the sufficiency of evidence and claimed improper weight on digital search history. The appellate panel affirmed, citing totality of circumstantial proof. Current status. Maris Hale serves her sentence at the Kentucky Correctional Institution for Women in Shelby County, assigned to a textile program and enrolled in correspondence coursework. State records list her first parole review month as September 2034. Elena Varga. On May 19, 2015, Košice, Slovakia, witnessed a life-term judgment under the nation's homicide statute. Elena Varga, 19, received life imprisonment with no fixed parole date, subject to periodic presidential review under Slovak law, for the death of her younger brother. But how does a drowning in a farm well occur with no splash heard and footprints that begin at the water's edge? Crime timeline. On October 22, 2013, in a rural village east of Košice, volunteer fire crews recovered the body of a 6-year-old boy from a stone-lined well on family property. The first report came from Elena at 8:12 a.m., stating her brother had gone missing after feeding hens. A neighbor, walking a dog at 7:50 a.m., had seen both siblings near the pump house. Weather was dry and cold, with frost on grass and well stones. An initial hypothesis considered accidental fall. However, the boy's wool cap was found hanging on a nail inside the pump shed, too high for him to reach unaided. The frost pattern showed 2 sets of prints, small shoe prints ending 1 step before the well lip, and larger prints appearing only near the rim, as though an approach avoided the frosted ground. The larger prints lacked a distinct tread, more like a socked foot inside over shoe covers or a wrapped shoe. The well's interior moss showed smears consistent with a controlled lower rather than a drop. Time of death estimation placed submersion near 7:30 a.m. Elena's statement placed her inside, making porridge at that time. The stovetop's thermal decay curve suggested the burner had been switched off closer to 7:50. Background snapshot. Elena, 19 at offense, lived with parents, a grandmother, and 2 younger brothers in a multi-generational household. She had completed vocational school the prior spring and remained at home, with intermittent work in a local cannery. Teachers' notes from earlier years referenced sibling rivalry, but no disciplinary sanctions. Family resources were modest. Inheritance of the property had been the subject of recent notarial discussions. Investigation and evidence. Police forensic technicians documented the unusual footwear impressions and collected fibers from the well curb. A pair of rubber overshoes, damp and wiped, were located behind a loose board in the hayloft. Inside, a thread matched to Elena's winter leggings. Elena's phone pedometer recorded a small step count between 7:10 and 7:20 a.m., then showed a curious lull until 8:10, inconsistent with her account of searching the yard. The house electricity meter log reflected a brief spike around 7:40, indicating the pump had been engaged. The pump handle bore a faint ridge of salt, consistent with tears or saline solution transferred by hand. An uncle's Hunter camera, positioned for bore, captured a blurred figure at the pump shed at 7:35, height and build similar to Elena, wearing a scarf mask. No voices were recorded by any device. The dog-walking neighbor reported no splash. The boy's palms showed no fresh abrasions. His undernails contained cellulose consistent with hemp rope fibers later found coiled in the shed. The prosecutor argued the child had been lowered by rope, then released or left suspended. Charges, court, sentence. Elena was charged with murder with special cruelty. Her counsel asserted accidental fall followed by panic and concealment, pointing to a lack of definitive ligature marks. Court-appointed experts testified that the frost edge footprints and the staged cap location, combined with the pump use at a time Elena claimed to be indoors, undermined accident theories. The three-judge panel convicted Elena on May 19, 2015, imposing life imprisonment. Under Slovak practice, parole is not a fixed statutory entitlement for life terms. Review may occur through executive clemency. Elena appealed on evidentiary grounds, challenging the weight given to pedometer data. The Supreme Court upheld the verdict, noting corroboration across physical traces. Current status. Elena Varga is held at the Leopoldov facility's women's unit, listed in work assignment as laundry, with psychological services mandated. Public registry shows no clemency petitions granted to date. Priya Narayan. On January 27, 2021, Pune, India, witnessed a sentence of imprisonment for the remainder of natural life without remission. Priya Narayan, 20, was convicted for the fatal arson that killed her 9-year-old brother in a bedroom fire. But what drove a fire that seemed electrical on first glance to reveal a match pattern traced like handwriting across the floor? Crime timeline. On July 2, 2019, a pre-dawn blaze consumed a small bedroom in a 2-room flat in the Kasba Peth area. Firefighters arrived at 4:22 a.m. after neighbors smelled smoke. The flames were contained within 12 minutes. The boy was found beside the bed, with soot in airways and carbon monoxide levels indicating death by inhalation rather than burns. Initial assessment by a utility technician pointed to a faulty power strip. However, the State Fire Service investigator noted irregular V patterns low on the wall and pore marks near the door jamb inconsistent with a purely electrical origin. The mother, working a night hospital shift, arrived during overhaul. Priya reported waking to smoke and attempting to open the door. Her hair lacked soot deposition, and her feet bore no blistering despite alleged exposure to hot surfaces. The flat's main door lock showed no damage. The rear window grille was latched from the inside. A timing issue emerged. A neighbor's CCTV showed Priya on the landing at 4:12 a.m., stepping out with a small tote bag, then returning at 4:16 a.m. before alarms escalated. Background snapshot. Priya, 20 at offense, had completed first-year commerce coursework, then left college. She shared the flat with her mother and brother after the father's death 2 years earlier. A scholarship once intended for Priya had been awarded to the younger child after a school merit exam. Financial strain was documented in bank records and landlord notices. There was no documented mental health treatment. Investigation and evidence. Forensic chemists collected carpet and wood samples from 3 burn loci. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry revealed traces of kerosene and a denatured alcohol common to nail polish remover. The power strip tested, intact. Arc mapping did not show beading. On Priya's phone, search history in the days prior included queries about fast-burning accelerants and smoke alarms. A neighborhood shopkeeper produced a sale record for a half-liter of kerosene sold to a young woman matching Priya's description 2 days earlier. The receipt time matched a gap in Priya's call logs. A plastic bottle fragment with a blue cap was recovered from a trash sack in the building's stairwell. Residues match the alcohol found in flooring samples. The tote bag seen on CCTV was located beneath a sink, damp and smelling of petroleum distillate. Micro soot inside suggested it had been near the fire zone before removal. Priya's feet showed faint kerosene fluorescence under alternate light, yet no thermal injuries, consistent with wearing footwear during ignition. A pair of sandals in the bathroom bore melted adhesive consistent with heat exposure. Fire modeling estimated an ignition range around 4:10 a.m., aligning with the moment Priya briefly left the flat. Investigators concluded a delayed ignition setup using a tissue wick and tipped bottle at the door created a flash barrier that trapped the child. Charges: court, sentence. Police charged Priya under Indian Penal Code sections covering murder, mischief by fire with intent to destroy house, and causing disappearance of evidence. The prosecution presented the accelerant findings, CCTV timestamps, purchase records, and the absence of credible electrical faults. The defense suggested an unknown intruder or accidental spill from cosmetic products. Door and window security undercut intrusion, and quantity and distribution rebutted accident. On January 27, 2021, the Sessions Court convicted Priya and imposed imprisonment for the remainder of natural life without remission, specifying no eligibility for statutory remission or parole under the case's aggravating factors. The High Court later reviewed the sentence and affirmed the no remission provision, citing deliberate entrapment and use of accelerants. Current status: Priya Narayan is incarcerated at Yerwada Central Prison's Women's Section, assigned to a tailoring unit. Prison records list her status as life without remission, with judicial review possible only upon extraordinary constitutional petition. Rowena Park. On November 21, 2016, Leeds, England, witnessed a whole life sentence in practice. Rowena Park, 22, received life imprisonment with a minimum term set at 27 years for poisoning her younger brother. But how does an assumed infection unravel when kidney slides glow with crystals shaped like needles, not bacteria? Crime timeline. On March 29, 2015 at 9:45 p.m., ambulance crews arrived at a semi-detached house in Beeston after a call reporting a child vomiting and unresponsive. The 8-year-old boy was transported to St. James's University Hospital and died shortly after midnight, despite fluid resuscitation. The on-call pediatrician initially considered gastroenteritis progressing to shock. Within 48 hours, histology from post-mortem kidney cuts showed widespread calcium oxalate deposition, a hallmark of ethylene glycol metabolism, contradicting the infection theory. The living room presented like a normal evening. Homework books on a coffee table, a game paused on a console, and a plastic sports bottle on a sideboard. No forced entry, no open containers of chemicals. A neighbor's doorbell camera had captured Rowena carrying a shopping bag into the house at 6:21 p.m. The mother was on an evening shift as a care assistant. The father lived elsewhere. Rowena told responders the boy had complained of stomach pain after squash and crisps and had gone to lie down at 8. Background snapshot. Rowena, 22 at offense, was a pharmacy technician in training who had withdrawn from a diploma course the prior term. She lived at home and shared childcare duties. Records from school and health visitors described ordinary sibling tensions and recent crowding in the home after a grandparent moved in. Income reports showed Rowena contributing rent but frequently overdrawn. Investigation and evidence. Toxicology confirmed lethal ethylene glycol concentration. No other sedatives were present at significant levels. A forensic sweep of the kitchen located a sticky ring within the plastic sports bottle cap. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry identified traces of ethylene glycol mixed with black currant concentrate. Under ultraviolet light, faint residue fluoresced on a funnel stored behind a microwave. Waste collection logs led detectives to a council depot holding the family's bin contents. Inside a tied sack lay a radiator coolant bottle with a torn label and Rowena's thumbprint on the neck. Retail checks found a cash purchase of coolant at a nearby auto shop on March the 26th. The shop's CCTV showed a woman matching Rowena in a gray hoodie paying with coins. The family laptop held search queries in the prior week for antifreeze taste, oxalate crystal's kidney, and how long till antifreeze works child. The account profile tied the queries to Rowena's login. The timing matched gaps in her messaging history. A digital scale in Rowena's room had sticky residue consistent with squash syrup and trace ethylene glycol. Interviews at her training placement established she had recently failed a medication safety assessment, which the Crown framed as relevant knowledge rather than character. The cumulative picture, specific metabolite pattern, staged drink container, purchase and search trail, narrowed causation to intentional dosing inside the home. Charges, court, sentence. The Crown Prosecution Service charged Rowena with murder by administration of a noxious substance and with attempting to pervert the course of justice for disposing of evidence. The defense suggested accidental ingestion from a misused household product and argued others had access to the kitchen. Expert testimony emphasized the metabolite timeline. Glycolic and oxalic acid curves consistent with dosing within a few evening hours, not environmental contamination. On November 21, 2016, a Leeds Crown Court jury returned a guilty verdict on murder. The judge imposed life imprisonment with a minimum term of 27 years, citing breach of trust and steps taken to conceal. The attempt count was left to lie on file. Appeal on sentence argued undue weight on internet searches. The Court of Appeal dismissed, noting the forensic chain. Current status. Rowena Park is held at HMP New Hall. Ministry records list earliest parole consideration in spring of 2043, subject to risk assessment by the parole board. Nomsa Khumalo. On April 13, 2018, Cape Town, South Africa, witnessed a life-term judgment for premeditated murder. Nomsa Khumalo, 21, received life imprisonment under the Criminal Law Amendment Act for causing her brother's fatal fall. But what drove a cliffside accident to break down when the ocean spray on the victim's clothing did not match the wind records for that hour? Crime timeline. On December 12, 2016, shortly after midday, emergency services responded to a call from Chapman's Peak Drive reporting a child over the edge near a turnout. A tourist dashcam later supplied the interval's only continuous footage. A compact hatchback arriving at 11:58 a.m., parking nose in. A woman exiting on the driver's side, no visible child emerging on camera. A call placed from the woman's phone at 12:07 p.m. The boy's body was recovered by mountain rescue below a low wall, where the shoulders drop abruptly to rock ledges. Initial reporting framed the event as a tragic misstep during sightseeing. Weather records noted light southerly winds and cool conditions. The boy wore socks inside trainers. His laces were double knotted. A set of child-sized footprints approached the wall, then stopped short. Scuffs on the stone suggested sliding contact rather than a jump. Nomsa told police she had turned to retrieve a water bottle from the car and returned to find her brother missing. Background snapshot. Nomsa, 21 at offense, had left a hospitality internship weeks earlier and moved back into a two-room family flat in Khayelitsha. The younger brother, 9, had been selected for a scholarship at a private academy. Social workers had visited the family regarding bursary arrangements. Bank statements showed arrears and a small life policy naming the mother and children. Investigation and evidence. The boy's injuries included fractures consistent with a fall from height, but the distribution suggested an initial controlled contact on a ledge before a secondary drop. Fine quartz dust inside the boy's shoes did not match the coarse grit on the turnout, indicating his shoes had not scraped the wall top. A length of thin polypropylene cord, frayed and with a broken knot, was found snagged on finbows below the wall. Plant transfer on the boy's clothing matched the snag location. In Namsa's car boot, searchers located a shopping bag with a roll of similar cord, a receipt from a hardware store that morning, and a cloth with resin that forensic chemists matched to the cord's coating. Her phone's activity log showed a scheduled social media post at noon reading, "Day out with my champ," created the prior night and set to auto-publish, which the state portrayed as narrative preparation. A fitness app on her phone recorded a short burst of steps and a heart rate spike at 11:59 a.m., then a lull inconsistent with a frantic search. Cellular analysis placed the phone near the wall throughout, not at the car as claimed during the critical minute. A wind spray model using SANAP data supported the observation that the victim's clothing carried lower salt deposition than expected if he had fallen straight into active spray at that time, consistent with a stage lowered to a ledge followed by release. Charges, court, sentence. Prosecutors charged Namsa with premeditated murder and defeating the ends of justice. The defense contended an accidental slip compounded by panic, citing the broken cord as evidence of a failed rescue attempt rather than a control line. Expert testimony on cord mechanics and the absence of abrasive transfer on the shoe toes undercut the rescue claim. On April 13, 2018, the Western Cape High Court convicted her of murder and imposed life imprisonment, noting planning indicators, including the cord purchase and scheduled post. Under South African law, parole consideration for life sentences generally occurs after serving at least 25 years, subject to correctional services procedures. Appeal on conviction argued misinterpretation of digital fitness data. The Supreme Court of Appeal dismissed, finding corroboration in physical traces. Current status: Nomsa Kumalo is incarcerated at Polesmore Female Center. Departmental listings mark parole consideration no earlier than late 2041, with victim impact consultation required. Mika Tanaka. On July 9, 2024, Osaka, Japan witnessed a rare maximum penalty short of death for intrafamilial homicide. Mika Tanaka, 19, received life imprisonment for carbon monoxide poisoning that killed her younger brother in a locked bedroom. But how does a room seal itself when tape edges show fingerprints pressed from the inside and the smoke alarm sits open with its battery missing? Crime timeline. On November 23, 2022, at 4:18 a.m., neighbors reported a sharp chemical odor and faint beeping from an apartment in Nishinari Ward. Fire services arrived to find the hallway clear, the bedroom door locked from the outside with a sliding latch, and light smoke seeping from under the frame. Inside, on the floor near the bed, responders located a small charcoal brazier still smoldering. The 9-year-old boy lay on the futon, pulseless. Initial assessment pointed to accidental carbon monoxide buildup from unsafe heating. The apartment's main door camera had captured Mika returning at 3:42 a.m. with a convenience store bag and leaving again at 4:03 a.m. The mother worked a night cleaning shift and reached home during the scene. The smoke alarm in the bedroom hung open, battery missing. Fresh tape sealed the vent grill. Background snapshot. Mika, 19 at offense, had withdrawn from a technical college and worked short-term shifts at cafes. She shared the apartment with her mother and brother after a parental divorce. Apartment association notes referenced noise complaints and a prior warning about small charcoal grills on balconies. Financial records reflected late rent and an application by the mother for a special needs subsidy allocated to the younger child. Investigation and evidence. Autopsy recorded a carboxyhemoglobin level consistent with fatal exposure. Tape recovered from the vent bore ridge detail matching Micah's left index finger. Adhesive transfer on the wall traced a recent application. The smoke alarm's missing battery was recovered in a kitchen drawer. A faint sooty thumbprint on the battery casing matched Micah's right hand. Surveillance from a nearby home improvement store showed Micah purchasing duct tape, a roll of plastic film, and an additional brazier on November 21st. Her phone's browser history included searches for charcoal room poison time, seal door gaps, and CO detector how loud. A messaging app showed a scheduled delivery of a photo at 5 a.m. of the sibling pair sleeping, created from an earlier image and preloaded for posting. It never sent because police disabled the phone. A bank receipt documented a small transfer from a secondary account to Micah 2 days prior. Prosecutors characterized it as a failed attempt to divert funds. The building's Wi-Fi router logs recorded a firmware update prompt at 3:58 a.m. Metadata tied the click-through to Micah's device in the bedroom, placing her inside during setup. A narrow line of ash along the door's inner threshold indicated the brazier had been positioned to maximize gas pooling. There were no signs of forced entry or third-party presence. Charges: court, sentence. Osaka Prefectural Police arrested Micah on suspicion of homicide by dangerous means and destruction of property. The indictment alleged murder, arson of inhabited structure limited to contents, and obstruction of firefighting equipment for disabling the alarm. The defense suggested an ill-advised attempt at winter warming that spiraled into tragedy, arguing absence of direct confession and proposing that the latch could have been engaged by a string. Forensic examiners demonstrated that the latch design required close-range manipulation and that string actuation would leave abrasion not present. On July 9, 2024, the Osaka District Court convicted Micah of murder and imposed life imprisonment, noting deliberate sealing, alarm disabling, and timed online activity. Under Japanese practice, life imprisonment includes the possibility of parole only after a prolonged custodial period at administrative discretion. No fixed minimum was specified by the court. Defense counsel filed a kokoku appeal limited to sentence harshness. The High Court maintained the penalty. Current status: Mika Tanaka is confined at Osaka Women's Prison. Correctional notices list her as ineligible for open custody. Any parole review will occur only after extended evaluation periods with no announced date.